Okay, recording has started.
Yes. Not 7 yet though, so.
Is he on his way?
Yeah. He's in the COG meeting, so he'll be. No, now it's 7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I would just excuse him and say he'll be here shortly. He said to start, and of course, I don't know, maybe he'll want to be here.
We'll walk in as soon as you say so.
We'll get the Zions pretty quick.
Put public Zions.
We certainly could.
Could pay these people to.
Alex Buxton just checked in for your finance.
Let's have Alex present without him and he can watch the video.
There you go. And he'll.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Call this meeting to order. Start off with a roll call. Scott Gervais is in a COG, the Council of Governments meeting right now. He'll be down shortly. Smith.
Here.
Jess Bird is here. Perry Miter. All here except for Scott. Craig, I think it's your turn to.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, let's go ahead and unmute Alex Buxton, and if he's ready, we'll hear from him.
Alex, I believe you have your own controls on that. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right, I've actually I've turned on my camera as well, but for some reason that doesn't, there we go. Can you guys see me as well?
Oh, we can't see you.
Our recorder can.
Okay, all right, terrific. Well, thanks for inviting me to join you guys this evening. I work for Zions Bank Public Finance, and I believe some of you may know some of my colleagues. I know a few of you on the call might know Jonathan Ward, who I work with, and John Bronson and some others. But I've worked in the Tooele County area for most of my career. I've been with Zions for, I celebrated my 20th year this last summer. So been doing public finance for quite a while, and I've always enjoyed my connection and my relationships with the Tooele County folks. So I spoke earlier for a little bit with Terry, and we chatted about some of the needs that Erda has. And my understanding, as I got invited to be on this call tonight, was to maybe talk through some options that might be available through Zions for some startup money, if you will, as you guys are getting going as a city. We've done a couple of these recently. We did a loan for Mill Creek City this last year as they incorporated, and I believe your attorney John Brems was a part of that, and I see that he's on this call, so he's, I think, familiar with kind of how that worked. And I think what we're envisioning here is to do some sort of a tax note, possibly a tax and revenue anticipation note, which we call a TRAN. And what we would want to do is determine the needs of the city, how much you're looking to borrow through this tax note, and largely that would be determined on how much we are able to determine that you're able to afford based on future taxes and other sources of revenue. Once we determine the amount that we would be trying to pursue through the bank, and we're able to get credit approval, and that's usually several weeks to get final approval on a loan amount. And I could work with the folks there at the city to get the information we need in order to get that credit approval. We'd want to issue this TRAN. The way I foresee it, there would be a shorter term TRAN that would probably go up through the end of your fiscal year, up through June 30, and then we would likely just kind of continue that on and issue a follow-up TRAN once your July 1st fiscal year began, and then have that second one due within that fiscal year. So June 30 of, I guess that would be 2023. So probably have that out for, that would be what, 17 months. The process, as I mentioned, takes a few weeks to get that all credit approved, but we would love to be helpful. We'd love to assist you in getting what you need. I think that there's a few hurdles that we have to kind of jump over with respect to trying to get some updated information. I know that you guys received a study, an incorporation study that I believe my other colleague Susie Becker had put together in late 2019, maybe early 2020. A lot of that information is good, and we can probably try to update it, but the actual numbers in that study are probably not very accurate now because so much has changed, in so many areas over the last 2 years, as everybody's aware. So I think in talking with Terry earlier, that's where there'd be some hurdles in trying to get that all those projections and some of that data more updated for 2022, since so much has changed. But that's kind of a brief summary. I'm happy to answer questions and kind of discuss anything you guys would like regarding that.
What kind of interest rate is typically on those?
Sure, that's a great question. Based on the prior ones that we've worked on, it's usually something that is tied to the prime rate. And in a couple of conversations I've already had with our credit group, something like this would probably be pretty close to the prime rate, which right now is at 3.25%, and it's a variable rate. So, that obviously fluctuates as the market changes. So I'd say as a ballpark, we probably want to use prime rate for now. And if we can get something like 90% of prime or some sort of a discounted from prime, that would be great. But I'd probably expect something right around a 3.25%, which kind of brings us to the next, the kind of the follow-up to that question would be whether it would be something that would be drawn down all up front, which is what the preferred method would be by Zions. In this case is depending on let's just assume it's $500,000. The preference would be to have you draw that full 500 right at closing. If needed, we can look to see about some kind of a draw option where you just draw the funds as you would like. Usually, if you have a draw option like that, Zions would probably want some kind of a reserve fee because they're setting aside the 500,000. So there may be some sort of a reserve fee that maybe a couple $1,000 since they're setting the money aside, so they're not earning interest on it while they're waiting for you to draw. But we can certainly look into that and have those discussions with our credit group.
So Alex, tell us what you see as the major changes that you were talking about in the last 2 years over what the feasibility study that you did outlined, and what do you see as the differences now that have got to be rectified?
Where are the concerns, Alex?
Sure.
It seems like numbers and population have only gone up since then.
Okay, yeah. Well, I had a chance to kind of look through this study. I didn't prepare it. As I mentioned, Susie Becker in our group did, and I spoke with her about it in the last day or two. A lot of the changes are the inflation costs are just a lot higher, as we all know, with inflation just skyrocketing. With that, police costs, road repair, I don't know. I had heard, and maybe this is not accurate information. I don't know. I had heard there's several property owners that are potentially de-annexation. They're de-annexing from the area. I know there was a change perhaps with the probability of the church building a temple, the LDS church building a temple in the area. My understanding is the Romney Group had a big parcel that they pulled from the area, that there may be some boundary disputes with property owners that might either have or will take legal action about where their property sits and whether they're in Erda or Tooele County. So those are just some that have come to light in the last day or two, which is why the feeling was that the projections and the information that was taken 2.5 years ago didn't seem to necessarily fit with where things are at today.
Alex, I think if the bulk of those annexations were to go through, we'd be losing almost nothing in property tax income. And if we lose a few others, just a few people, we're mostly talking about greenbelt land and not the tax-paying citizens.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We'd want to know, I think we'd want to know just some exact numbers as far as the amount of acreage that are not in dispute right now and that are definite as far as receiving property taxes. And I think that's another thing that we'd want to look at is, depending on the size of the loan. I know that I've heard numbers from upwards of close to $1 million and as low as maybe $100,000. I think that if we're looking at something in that higher amount, that not only the property taxes but those other sources of revenue that are laid out in the study are going to be needed, obviously, to be able to repay that size of a loan. And so those other revenue sources outside of property taxes are going to have to be looked at, and I'll have to work with some folks at the city to try to get accurate information on that. If it's something a little bit in the lower realm, in the 100, 200,000, perhaps we only need to secure the loan with the taxes. So we just issue a tax anticipation note instead of a tax and revenue anticipation note. And in that case, based on what I'm hearing, there's probably sufficient revenues that will be coming in with that tax to cover the repayment. Usually on something like this, there's a little bit stronger coverage than just one-to-one, meaning if you're looking to borrow $100,000, you'd probably have to have a little more than $100,000 to show that would be coming in to pay. I think our credit folks would probably want something at least in the 1.1 times coverage, or maybe even stronger if possible. But do you? I mean, I guess that's a question then we could talk about now is what's the asking amount? What does the city feel like they would need to borrow?
We're still in talks, county, with what services they might provide. And we're still in talks on how that will be covered. It could be that a portion of that tax revenue will be promised to them. And so, especially like our roads funds and things like that, which wouldn't be included in this. So we probably need to answer that question before we can give you an amount. $100,000 would certainly get us through this quarter, and maybe probably beyond. But we're destitute right now. We're running a city and we have no money, and so we need something beyond just a credit card. We need to be able to hire a couple of employees right away.
Yeah, I understand. So as far as timing goes, we're happy to try to push this as quickly as you guys would like. And it sounds like you'd like to get it going as quick as possible. With some of those questions that you mentioned that may not have answers to yet, would you want to pursue something, a lower amount like $100,000? One thing to keep in mind too that we haven't talked about is there are costs associated with putting together a tax anticipation note. Generally, something like that requires a bond attorney to prepare the document and to sign off on its validity and its tax exemption status and so forth. And I really can't tell you offhand what a local bond attorney would charge. I think that the ones that I mentioned earlier used Gilmore Bell, who's probably the most seasoned bond attorney group in our locally here. And so I would think there would be a, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 fee associated with that. And there would also be a fee, a setup fee from Zion's probably in about the $7,500 range, give or take. So there are about, let's just estimate $15,000 to $20,000. I'm hoping that's on the high side. We'd certainly try to do it for the lowest cost possible, but I bring that up because if you only borrow $100,000 with one note and we go through the process to issue that, but then you have to come back and do a second one or a third one or a fourth one, those costs there's not an economy of scale there. So I kind of feel like you want to borrow as much as you can, but I understand we don't know some of those answers. Anyway, I just
Alex,
yeah.
$100,000 loan is that's not doable. I mean, that's just too much.
Well, I think that's to his point.
Yeah, I think that's to my point. I agree that it's especially in the situation that Erda's in and not having money right now and needing to borrow it. Any fee, even probably $2,000, sounds high. I guess my thought again at that point is there's a lot of time and effort that goes into setting up a tax anticipation note. Certainly a lot different and a lot more time consuming from your side and from our side and from legal side and so forth than a credit card. And so there are fees that have to be paid in order to do that. And so that's where I'm saying, try to get as much as you can to justify those fees, because the amount of work that, for example, the bond attorneys are going to put into it, it really doesn't matter if it's a $50,000 tax anticipation note or a $500 or even $5 million tax anticipation note. The process is the same and the documentation is the same. And so I think we can get it. I think we can get them to trim down their fees. I don't know, and John might even be able to recall what the fees were associated with the Mill Creek Tran. But anyway, I'm just making the point that there are fees associated with doing a tax anticipation note.
Hey, so Alex and group, this is John Brams. I think we'll have by next week a pretty good number of the funds that we will need. And so that'll be helpful to know. And then we can sharpen the feasibility study as to the revenue sources. And then we got something we can work forward to work on.
That sounds great. Thank you, John.
So when you're talking about, are you actually asking for the trans, you want a pledge of our property taxes? Because
yeah, that would be the source of security. That would be the source of repayment. This wouldn't be an unsecured loan. There would be a tie to those revenues.
okay. Because B&C road funds, we're going to have to commit to the county for public works, but that's not one of those that you want to pledge on, right?
No, I mean, we really, I think that the feasibility study that you just referenced and that I took a look at earlier had those as a source of revenue. I could be wrong. I want to say there were 7 or 8 different line items that were making up the projected future revenues of about 1.1 million. Again, that was 2 years ago, but those were all associated with that revenue. The property tax portion was only in the 300,000 range, and so again, we don't want to take as collateral anything that isn't necessary. If you borrowed an amount that the property taxes alone are able to cover, then that certainly is all we need to have as collateral. But if the property taxes come up short, other sources of revenues are going to have to be used as a collateral source in order to get that coverage. It all usually comes down to whatever that coverage number is and that our credit folks feel comfortable with. And it, as I mentioned, has to usually be a little bit more than one-to-one coverage, has to have a little bit of buffer there, a little bit of flexibility in case some of that doesn't come in. They know that there's going to be enough money coming in to make the payment when it's due.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Now, how do we proceed? How do we sharpen or modify the feasibility study so we can get you comfortable with the revenue sources?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple ways to do it. I think I could talk with the person that actually put the study together, Susan Becker, and ask her about updating. She put it's a really good study. It was well done. It's just the numbers don't seem to be relevant now, but have her go through and update as much as she can. I don't know what kind of a charge or a fee there would be associated with that, but it wouldn't be something that she would necessarily do for free. So I guess I'd have to ask her what she'd be willing to do that for. and then the city can decide if it's, something that they want her to do. The other option would be, after I talk with her, I could work with maybe internally with Jonathan and our credit group, and we can look at the study as it is and see if there are certain things that we can just come up with as far as, different amounts that they're comfortable with. I sent that study to our group, to our credit group. They haven't really dove into it yet because I mentioned that I'd be having a call with the city to see, if this is something we want to start really pursuing. But I think the best case would be to have Susie updated, and then the second case would be for me and maybe the credit guys to see what we can derive from that, and maybe some updates we can make. But we probably would need updates from you, John, and from the city and folks that know what's going on there. I mean, again, a lot of it has to do with what do we have? What are the for sure property owners that are going to be paying taxes? What are the ones that may not, based off of that study, that we have to exclude? Is there, 1,000 acres, 6,000 acres? I mean, I've heard a lot of different amounts, and we just want to make sure that we're dealing with accurate information.
Okay, I think I kind of have a game plan of how to do this. And I'll talk to the council, but I think probably the best way would be to get Susie to modify the numbers, take out that which is at risk, and come up with a new number, because I think that's what the credit group's going to ask for. They want somebody independent from us doing the numbers, I would guess.
I think that's the preference, but again, oftentimes we certainly do a lot of municipal loans and transactions with entities that just provide us their information. Although, well, this is a totally different case, given that there aren't financials that we can look at and so forth. So yeah, your point's well taken, John. I think that having somebody outside looking in to provide that is helpful in this case, because this is we don't have any historic financial numbers to pull from, so it's a little bit trickier. Everything based on projections. John, is that something that you'd want to then kind of talk through with the council, and then touch base with either myself or Jonathan to kind of provide us next steps?
Yeah. Is the council okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we've discussed enough tonight.
Okay. Any other questions I can answer?
When's
All
it
right.
gonna,
Well, thanks for inviting me, and I certainly don't want to be the bearer of bad news or anything like that, because as I've mentioned, I love working out in the Tooele County area, and I'd love to help put something together here. So we'll see what we can do. John, I'm going to be out of town next week, just as a kind of an FYI. So your best bet would probably be to work directly with Jonathan while I'm gone, and I'll be back in the office on the 31st of January.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Can let that marinate for a little bit, and we can come back to it on the finance committee. I think we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. If you have something to say, please come up and sign your name and tell us who you are.
Is there anyone wanting to public or comment online, Corey? Checking now, nope. Somebody is saying that YouTube is not broadcasting. But no, as far as comments, no.
YouTube is not broadcasting.
There's one person complaining about that, yes. Come and check again.
Shane Riley, I live here in Erda, and first of all, I want to thank you five for the time and efforts that you're putting into this monumental task that we're facing. One concern I have with the finances that you're talking about right now is that letter we just got in the mail, everybody got from the new legislation for the Greenbelt. It's urban farmland now.
Couldn't get a letter.
So it's, the Greenbelt used to be 5 acres and more, and now it's between 1 acre and 4.99 acres. And you have to apply for it, but if Greenbelt substantially lowers our taxes, that's gonna lower your revenue. And so just something that you need to be aware of. And as you make these projections that you're talking about financially. But again, there's so much civil unrest right now in our country and even in our own county. I just hope that you get a lot of support and that people within Erda, find it in their hearts to support and go forward and try to make this the best city that we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we do a GoFundMe page?
Good.
Hi guys, my name is Riley Post. I just moved in with my family over on Drew Bay Way. Saw this on the post, wanted to just come in, say hello to everybody, hear what's going on. Thank you guys for all your guys' work. I'm with this guy, just want Erda to be a great place. Love it out here compared to West Shore, so let's not go that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dory, future Erda resident. We own property over on Hummingbird Way. Just with this financing, is there some way Tooele County pulled records to see how much revenue they're losing? Could we get those? Would that be considered an outside source?
We're trying to work with the county.
Yeah, but the bank needs an outside source to do.
Oh,
Would that be considered an
I
outside source?
That's where the number for the feasibility study came from, was
They did?
county
They
record.
gotta know how much they're gonna lose in revenue
Yeah,
from
we'll
Erda.
use the county to update those.
yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you guys.
See no more public comment. I move we close the public comment.
Second. Okay, been moved and seconded. We close public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Has everyone read the minutes from our last meeting on the 13th?
Briefly.
Any
Aye.
last minute corrections? Any objections?
I thought they were complete.
I think we go ahead and approve those.
So moved.
Okay,
A second.
and moved and seconded that we approve our meeting minutes from January 13th. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Okay, is there anything new or additional from Roads Committee?
No. We submitted our proposal, right, John? To the county. I got word earlier tonight that, they'll be getting back in touch with us. There's a little bit of tweaking they want to see.
That's exactly what I've heard.
Okay, anything else on roads?
No.
On the police?
I'd say police and garbage are in the same boat. We're waiting. Solid waste.
Solid waste, that's right.
Solid waste, sorry.
We're not
Sorry,
allowed-
Corey.
We're not allowed to call it garbage.
Okay, agreed. Land use and zoning. We've talked about this a little bit already. We're hoping to have a engineering firm contracted sometime next week, and hoping to be able to make an announcement next Thursday, as well as vote in some temporary land use regulation so that we're able to move building permits forward just as quickly as we can. We have a draft land use regulation in front of us. Our counsel, John Brems, has been working on this, and so he has an updated copy. I think as soon as he gives me the go-ahead, and I'll go ahead and post that to the Utah Public Notice website. And then we can all kind of look through these and hopefully vote on it next Thursday.
I did have one question for John. We talked earlier today about chapter 5, which is the legal nonconforming. Did you have a chance to look at that and see?
Yes, the version that I have on my computer right now, I've added it.
Okay. All right.
So if anybody else has got any questions, I got a couple points or issues and changes that I propose.
Go ahead, John.
All right, so I thought we should originally thought that we should adopt the fee schedule of Tooele. And so I contemplated that in this ordinance. But if we are not going to go with Tooele, but an engineering firm, we're going to have to adopt a separate fee schedule. And so we'll need that to be adopted. So that will need to be tinkered with. Also, I added, as I mentioned before the meeting, I have a provision in here that no conditional uses will be allowed. And then I put in an exception unless a complete application together with the applicable fee was submitted to Tooele County prior to January 6, 2022. So that would then take care of somebody that's in the process of a conditional use. But I thought it'd make a lot of sense to stop the new conditional uses until we, decide what we want to do with our land use ordinances. The other provision is section 4, and I put in there basically a stop of subdivisions. And then I just wanted to ask if you want to create an exception for that. I don't think you want an exception for a big subdivision, but you might have some ma and pa's come along with 1 or 2 unit subdivision that doesn't want to be stopped, and it doesn't make sense to stop them. But I didn't know what you wanted, so I just left the unless, and then I put the word insert what you want there.
I think we leave this in place and we lift that portion of the moratorium when we're ready.
Okay.
That's just Bird's opinion.
I think we open ourselves to litigation if we say, well, if you're a 3-lot subdivision, we'll let you move forward, but if you're a 5-lot subdivision, we don't.
Yeah.
Or a 80-lot subdivision, we don't. I think that just opens us for litigation that we shouldn't do. It should be either all or nothing. If we want to let those who have vested rights and have already applied for subdivisions move forward, that's a clear line we can draw. But to do it on a size thing, I'm with Jess, we're better to stop all subdivisions until we are ready to lift it than we are to try to put a size on, because that just opened ourselves for litigation.
Okay. Do you want to draw a line for those that have supposedly been vested? I don't know what subdivisions we have out there that are vested and whether they're problem ones.
There are, I believe, 4 different subdivisions that have currently paid fees and are in the process right now with the county at one stage or another. At least 2 of them have their conceptual plans approved and are working for their preliminary and final plat. I think one of them's preliminary plat was ready to go already. Ochre Point is in the process. They've already got some of it approved. Pot F has been approved, so they're, and I don't know what they have applied for at the county or not. It seems like there was one more, but I can't remember what it was. That's one of the first 2. So I don't know. I can go back over that and get with you, and we can outline those and see where you feels best to move forward or put a block in there. My personal feeling is we need to do whatever is going to keep us out of litigation. And based on that vesting, and I'll lean on your opinion for a lot of that.
Okay. Well, there may be some real sword rattling of threats of lawsuits. But when it actually gets down to it, there's a lot of threats and not a lot of action. It's like a dog bark. A lot of barking, but not a lot of biting. But that does make some sense, is to determine what we think might be vested. The concern I have is vested in what?
Sounds like that's gonna take a little research.
Yes.
Where do business licenses fall?
That is not a land use issue. So
Where does it come under?
I think we can talk about that next under ordinance adoption. Okay, John, what else on land use? Or anybody else?
I don't have anything else. I'll tinker with this and we'll figure out those subdivisions, but those are the issues I wanted to bring up and get direction from the council.
Okay.
All right.
You feel like you have direction, John?
Yeah, I just need the fee schedule, which is also dependent upon
We're supposed
engineer.
to,
Yeah.
we're supposed to get that soon.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I think I emailed you. It's hard to say with me whether I actually did or not. All the subdivisions that were currently in the process. Do you know if you ever got those or not? And if you didn't, I will try to get those sent to you tonight.
I'm looking through my emails. Give me a second.
I'll make it quicker. I'll just send them to you again tonight.
Okay. Yeah, but the only thing, yeah, I do not have them.
I'll give it
Yeah.
another attempt tonight.
Okay, and if you also drop a Google Doc on me, I can't open the Google Docs, but hopefully after tomorrow I can do it.
Okay.
Definitely after tomorrow, John.
Okay.
Okay, are we good to close land use zoning?
So.
All right, we'll open it up for ordinance adoption. We can start right on building permits if you like, Terry.
Business licenses. Business license.
What did I say? Oh, yeah, business licenses.
But you have some really good advice on building permits. But at our last meeting, we adopted an ordinance to where we allow the county to continue to process what was permitted. The feedback I received from the county is that they still haven't received authorization from the people that they work for, that they are going to still be allowed to do that. Are we hopefully coming to terms on that part of it, or are we thinking our new deal is going to supersede that?
John, I don't know if you could hear any of that, but it sounds like we authorized the county to proceed with building permits that have already been
Filed and paid for.
fully submitted. And it sounds like they're still not moving forward on those.
Yeah, and I can't remember the lady's name that was there at the meeting last week.
Rochelle Custer.
Okay, she said we needed to do an interlocal. And Colin has been out of town until yesterday. So I need to chase him down to get the interlocal in place to allow them to proceed.
Okay, well, let's make that high priority, maybe top priority.
Okay.
Colin's back in town now, I believe, so.
He is back in town. I've talked to him.
Yeah, that can get done, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. All right, business licenses. We've got nothing in place to be able to accept an application or process a renewal from the county. We got an email from Tracy Shaw yesterday. Saying we've got a couple of the bigger businesses in Erda that aren't up for renewal until June. And so I think we're gonna, of course, this is just my opinion, and I only get one vote, but I think we hold off until we're ready to start accepting business applications ourselves. So that's my thought on that.
I would think long before June, we should be able to accept business licenses and have a fee schedule in place for that.
And have an office to go to and submit your paperwork.
Yes, we'll have to put, like I say, a fee schedule and ordinance together for it, but long before June, I think we should have that all done.
That helps, Terry?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Craig or Kelly, you want to give us an update on our discussion night?
Yeah, I'll start off. Me and Craig met with Anthony Nucella, Salt Lake Community College, and talked about our first Erda discussion series meetings. We're looking to hold our first series on Friday, the 18th of February, 6 to 8 p.m. This will just be our introduction meeting. We'll advertise it more as it approaches. For these meetings, we'd like people to RSVP 3 days in advance, just to ensure that we'll have it organized properly. We'll ask people who are looking to attend these series to email me or Craig to RSVP. We just want to know how many people will show up here so we can have it organized good. And more information will be advertised. I ask that everyone who wants to have a say in what goes on in Erda, please attend. This is how we will be getting input from the public and on what you want to see done with our ordinances. We are a city council that listens to the public, and we want to continue to be that, and this is our way of doing it. So this is very, very important. We want the people to have as much influence in our government as possible. So this is how it will be done through these series, and we will continue to advertise. So that's what we've got planned so far.
He said it.
I guess we'll fire fire limit in here.
Sitting on that.
Uh,
Over there.
Yeah, whatever's on that placard, I guess, is our
We're
limit.
not planning on limiting attendance. It'll be based on capacity.
Maybe depending on how that
If
first
we get
night goes.
such a large outpouring, we'll find a bigger place to hold it.
But a lot of the stuff we talked about, you know, or you brought up prior, that'll be a good place to bring this and talk about, you know, your accessory dwelling stuff and land use, whatever it may be. So.
Okay, anything else on ordinance adoption?
Hey, can I bring it back to business licenses?
Sure.
So, early on, we adopted a bunch of Tooele County ordinances by reference. One that I did not adopt was a business license. We can adopt that and move forward using Tooele's county's business license regulation process, if you would like. I didn't adopt it because I didn't know if you wanted to have the same process, the same fees. But if you do, it's easy.
We probably ought to all take a chance to look at those this week. And then maybe have that as a resolution for next week. Or the week after, but
We gotta,
let's look at it first and see what it is and
we
what
gotta have a
to-
system in place to be able to process that application.
we do.
Nobody's delegated to do that.
Right. We need someone to be able to collect money. We need a bank account to put money in. We need to be able to issue a business license on a piece of paper. There's a bunch of stuff we need to do.
Yeah.
I'd rather not be bogged down with that right now. I think
Okay.
we get our employees hired and then we bite off that part.
Okay. Okay, I think I have my priorities and to get to the building inspection done with the county and the service agreements.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on. I don't have anything for IT.
Yes, we should just say this one more time. The 18th of February, 6 to 8. Everyone show up. Just advertise the crap out of that.
Okay. And it will be, you can watch it online but not participate?
That's to be decided, I guess, if we can participate online. I would imagine you won't be able to, but it will be online and minutes will be taken and everything. So.
Tell me the name of that again.
The Erda discussion series.
The ordinance discussion.
Erda ordinance discussion series. Okay, Finance Committee, just an update on liability insurance. Our forms were submitted to the Utah State Trust Company.
So Curtis called me today.
Oh, good.
He said they'll have a bid from the underwriters probably by Monday or Tuesday. He expects, for our size of community and the insurance we're asking for, it's probably gonna be 2,000, maybe 2,500 a year.
Both combined,
Oh, total.
including workers' comp.
That's what he said. He said what you've applied for can probably cost 2,000 to 2,500 a year.
Okay. This week, and this is for Finance Committee, we need a separate checking account created this week for building permits.
Okay. You want to get that at Zion's, I guess, the same as the other one?
I would think so, yeah.
So we're gonna need checking and routing number. What else would we need? Think?
I don't know, and maybe it just has to be some kind of separate account so we can take money from building permits, put it in there and be able to track it easily as we bill it and send it back out.
Okay.
Anything else from finance?
Mm-mm.
Somebody online who is not muted, will you please mute yourself?
Move on.
What happened to me?
I've got an update, office location. Jay Zilkowski, from the, North Willa Fire Department. I've been talking to him. He's working on a, bid for us agreement, that we could choose to move forward with. That's really distracting.
Whoever is on the phone online, it's a phone number ending in 50. It looks like you tried to mute yourself and then you came back off of mute. Please hit mute one more time.
Previously, the Erda building was not an option for us because of, it was a quarantine location or something. That is now off the table as far as that goes. So, which puts the Erda building back on the table for us. So that would be, I think, our primary, if we were going to go with the fire department, that would be our primary building, would be the West Erda location. And so we're looking forward to seeing that. And we've had one other option that is possibly coming up for us. So, yeah, does anybody have any comments on that?
What's the other option you're talking about? Is it the one here?
Yeah, we're talking with the county about potentially using part of this building.
I think we should. Especially where it's been offered.
We don't have an official offer.
Yeah,
yet.
we don't have any official offer.
Okay, yeah, I think, personally, I think that would be a good option for right now.
This auditorium was before so I've booked this auditorium through March. Someone snuck in and took February 24th from us, which is a Thursday. And so we've got to come up with an alternate meeting location between now and then. Preferably, probably 2 weeks out, ideally. So we've got a week to figure that out. A week to 2 weeks. And that Erda fire station building might be a good alternate location for us. We won't have any technology.
Maybe we'll have things under control so well by then, we just don't have a meeting that night.
That would
You
be
never know.
fantastic. Take a night off. So I'm prepared to play that by ear, but just know that it's an issue coming up soon. Advertise for city clerk and treasurer. I haven't made any progress on that.
So I made a little progress to help you with.
Good.
Eddie Kroger, I'm sure, sent me a resume.
You're sure she sent you a resume?
Yeah, she said she was going to, and I came off without it. I didn't even look.
Oh,
I just
okay.
ran out the door because I had that meeting at
Yep.
6.
I got you.
So I will get that to you. And there's one.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to get a couple more to answer the phone.
We tell everybody about the planning or the planning commission application. Should we advertise that here too?
Yeah.
Might as well.
All right, so next Thursday, I'm hoping to have our elections done for our 2 at-large planning and zoning people. And if you guys are ready or could be ready, I'd like to have our appointments made by next Thursday. So if we could do a short election between us to narrow down the remaining candidates down to 2, and then have our appointments made by Thursday. Does that sound doable?
I think it is. We should just,
Okay, so we're hoping to have a planning and zoning commission ready, at least appointed by the end of the meeting next Thursday. I've got 5 applications here. If anyone would like to take 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, they're here for you guys, so. Those here.
Also email us if you don't get one of these copies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can email us and we can return it to you. Okay, council representative reports, that would be like council of government. So anything to report there?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So, you guys don't know how much you really owe me. You volunteered. Yeah, but today the council of government was filling a whole bunch of seats that had to be filled.
You didn't take any of those seats, did you?
I got tricked into taking one,
Okay.
but I had the option to name about 3 others.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I didn't come up with any of your names.
Thank
So,
you.
I'm gonna hold this over you. So, here's the thing, we have, mostly what we talked about today, was the Wasatch Front Regional Council. So, the biggest thing that the Wasatch Regional Front Council does is it comes up with plans mostly for transportation around the Wasatch, all of northern Utah. And they also coordinate funding for those projects. And then it's broken down into a bunch of different committees. For example, there's one that's called the Integrated Economic Development and Infrastructure Investments. There's one that's called the Short Range Funding of Transportation Projects, Long Range Planning of Transportation Growth and Development, Short Range Funding of Community and Development Projects in Economically Distressed Communities, maybe like ours. Then there's the Statewide Forum for Discussion of Transportation Funding and Policy. So as I see it, the way we're going to come into focus with this is we're going to be taking part in planning long-term, even the short-term projects are like 5 and 8 years. And the long-term ones are like 15, 20, 25 years. And we're going to be taking part in helping shape those. And as I tried to decipher the conversation, it seems like a lot of that is going to be driven by growth patterns and by economics. They're actually supposed to help poorer communities, which I'm not sure where we fit, but we have no money. We got to, like we're one of the poorer communities. Anyway, so I will have meetings in my committee about once every 3 weeks, it sounds like. And then on our council meeting every month, I'll have a few reports to bring back about things that are being planned or things that are going on, whether they're planned or not. But here's the thing that is stuck in my craw from that meeting, and this wasn't even part of the agenda. So the state, and we heard rumor of this several weeks ago, the state has indicated to this council of governments that we either can get on board with the affordable housing plans and directions that they have, or they will put us on board. So what that means is, as we're working through all of these other things, we've got to have in the back of our mind what direction we're gonna go to satisfy the state on the affordable housing initiatives that they have. And I don't know what all those are, but apparently Twilla County is not doing a lot towards it so far, because the way it was put to us is there was a shot across the bow to Twilla County, and that would include us, that we either get on board or we will be enlisted involuntarily. So that's my report. I came away with this befuddled idea that.
Is there any kind of deadline there? And
They didn't give us a deadline, no.
I think
I'm hoping as I start to sit in some of these meetings that we'll start to see.
we ought to do some research on what the minimums are, so we can.
the minimum population on moderate income housing is 5,000, isn't it?
And I thought that might have been a federal thing.
That's a
So
federal.
this is
Yeah.
a state.
However,
So let me just clarify it. It's part of your general plan. You have to have it if you have a population of over 5,000.
So I'd imagine that's pursuant to the state code.
It's state code. Right. And, but you can, if we want to have a moderate income housing component of our general plan, we can add it. If you remember, our guy from SOMAS that came in last week or 2 weeks ago talked about it would be much cheaper to do a plan without that, and it's not required, but we might want to add it.
Start looking into how we can add it, because at some point we're gonna be over that limit.
I know the joint development agreement guaranteed at least 10% moderate income housing, so that will help us on this, but maybe it won't help
Like I
us.
said, we need to find out the minimums.
Yeah, we need to find out where we need to be.
Okay. Thanks for taking the bullet, Scott. Anything else?
not tonight.
Okay. Harry, you're on a few councils. Anything from you? Okay. All right.
February 10th. Huh?
Yep. And I think all of us plan to go except for
That's the training.
Yeah.
someone couldn't make it.
I can't make it until a late one, the dinner one.
So you,
Remember that?
so you're gonna have to choose between us and dinner, and I think we know where that's gonna go. Okay, we'll just open it up to just general comments from council members and then move to adjournment.
I've got nothing.
Good. Going once, going twice.
Hey, I'm not a council member, but I have a thought.
Okay,
On the treasurer, would it make some sense to hire an independent contractor to provide those services? In Mill Creek, early on, we did that. And he's just a sole proprietor, and he was able to come in, set up the system, and help get it started. The problem is it's government accounting, and it's just not intuitive. And just because you're an accountant doesn't mean you understand government accounting. So
I'd like to learn more about that, especially if you've got someone you can recommend or.
I do. So let me touch base with him and see if he's interested, and then I'll have him talk to Minor or Drew Bay. How's that? Is that the appropriate?
That
Okay.
sounds like, my opinion.
No, wait a second. I thought you were hiring the treasurer and the clerk.
Advertising.
Advertising for them.
Oh, well, that's different.
The treasurer has to have their stamp of approval on it.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to be appointed by resolution, so all of you will have to agree to it.
Well, I think what matters here is that we stay under budget.
Yeah, it'd have to be within our
Well, it has to
budget.
be a rubber stamp.
I don't think, well, you tell me, John, I don't think there's any requirement that they have to be like a W-2 type employee. It's just that we are under, I think, state mandate that we have one filling that position, but I don't know of any reason why it couldn't be a contractor.
Nope. In fact, they can be.
Okay, great.
Probably be in our best interest to get someone that has experience in that specific field first.
Right.
Like you said, set up the process.
If you leave it up to me, I'll be, going and getting QuickBooks or something, and it'll be temporary, and it wouldn't.
Well, he'll set up your chart of accounts and make sure that our processing is appropriate, because every year we have to be audited, and we don't want the auditor to come in and say, hey, you made this mistake, and let's just do it right in the first place.
Exactly. I just know it's such a pain to switch software, and so if he could point us in the right direction, something that's going to work for 5 or 10 years.
Okay. Well, he can probably help us with that.
Okay, well, let's start talking to him.
Okay.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Can I
Oh,
Yes.
back up? I just thought of something that was passed to me in the hall. So we probably ought to, we've given these petitions to the county for services. And we probably need to petition them for some money.
Have we not made any formal requests?
No, you tell me if I'm wrong, John, but all we've requested is the roads, the law enforcement, and the solid waste.
Right. I've only petitioned them for services. I have not petitioned them for money.
So, let's say this. I've been led to believe that the county may be willing to loan us money by just promising the end of year funds from our property tax. So I don't know, how do we proceed with that, John? Do we get together and try and decide what amount we want to petition them for? Or
Yeah, we might as well ask them, because they're a lot cheaper and easier to deal with than Zion's.
John, they're already waiting for a response from the county. Maybe you can slip that one under the door as well.
do we wait for the response and then try to put a whole package together of this is how we fund it? Through giving them parts of the taxes. If they're gonna respond within the next day or two on some of these proposals, I would think we should get those back, and then we'll put a proposal to them for any kind of grants or loans, because then we'll have an idea what we're going to need.
Right. We'll know what the costs are.
that makes sense to me.
Okay. Okay, we'll wait to hear back, and then we'll go back.
All right. I move to adjourn then.
Second. Okay, then moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Meeting adjourned.
I would just throw it in the garbage can if I were you. I wouldn't
I
even
saw
open it.
who it was from.
How was dinner?
Dinner good?